yes, you can have fun, you can enjoy life, but we don't need to be going 100 miles per hour on city streets. Let's slow down for a little bit. Let's think about some of the longer term goals that we have. And even though we don't necessarily need to check them all off today, if we just monitor our spending habits and where the money's going, we'll be surprised at how much we can save to get there.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Paycheck. I'm Paula Christine. So today we're going to talk about financial literacy, and we just aren't taught enough of it in school. And if our parents don't teach us, we have to kind of figure it out on our own. So I have asked Andrew, I'm going to probably botch your last name. Let's start that over again. I've asked Andrew, how do we do this? I've asked Andrew to introduce himself. Hi,
Hello,
Andrew.
Andrew Van Alstyne. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Okay. So I think people struggle with one, that there's not enough education in school, which it probably should start at kindergarten. But then parents don't even talk to their kids about money because they just are probably not good with it themselves, and they don't know how to talk to their kids about it. So what have you seen in your career, and how do you talk to your clients about it?
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. What I've seen and what I experience and try to help with is everyone comes out of their education, their training, enters the workforce, starts earning an income, but really has no idea how to properly manage that. And then we get into adulthood where we're now fearful that we're not doing the right thing and don't want to hear
Mhm.
that we're doing the wrong thing. And we wind up just adrift in a sea, having no real reference points as far as if we're doing the right thing or wrong thing. And not knowing how we're doing ourselves, we oftentimes feel hesitant to introduce concepts or theories or ideologies to our kids or to the next generation, simply because we don't know where we're going to end up ourselves and we don't want them headed down the wrong path at a younger age.
Right.
So one thing that I try to help do, and it's one thing that I do, my wife and I do with our kids, is really start the conversations young, like you mentioned. Our daughter's 3, our daughter's 6, and our son's 3. They both have their own balance sheets that, if they're earning
Balance
little
sheets?
tips. Yep. And
Wow.
again, they don't necessarily understand the philosophy behind it. It's
Uh-huh.
simply the mechanics at this point, but it's just implementing habits into them to understand that, there's an inflow and outflow of funds and how to properly manage those and handle those. Again, even with me, I try to move relatively quick and break things at times, but also in the essence of wanting to continuously improve. So I'm not saying that everything that we do is right, but by having some basics down, before we learn how to use a calculator in school, we learn basic addition, subtraction,
Right.
multiplication, and division. So we have to understand the basic principles before we start to introduce complexities. And I think that even if you're not sure of where you are as an adult, if you take that time with kids to slow down, they'll wind up in a better place. And you might learn a thing or two yourself along the way as well.
Right. I think it's important to, I mean, I wish my parents would have talked about money, and I grew up with a negative mindset about money because, we were always broke, and we were always, trying to make ends meet when I was a child. So that, plays into how I managed my own money until I figured it out and, got my head on straight. And I think that if we could just teach them, simple things about saving and investing and how much better off they could be, when they want to retire. Maybe they don't have to work till they're 70 like most of us. Maybe they can retire, in their 50s or 60s if they
Absolutely.
knew.
And it's something where it's you got to use the gas and the brake at the same time with that. You want them to have good understanding of money, but being able to use that money as a tool. It's something where at the same time with having a strong foundation there, if you tie in a strong work ethic along with it and you can put them both and fuel both, use both passions to fuel one another, you might get into a situation where most of your adult life is a work optional lifestyle because you're truly doing what you enjoy doing and truly able to build that financial asset for yourself and your family, but never really feel the need. You're never going to get burnt out because you're truly doing what fuels your passions. So it's something where if you can utilize those funds part of the saving is the spending of it. But if you're spending correctly, spending on furthering your own education, furthering
Hmm.
your own competencies, and just putting yourself in a better position now for that long-term plan that you have.
I like what you use the work. What was that? Work
Work optional
option.
lifestyle. Yeah.
I like that. Work optional lifestyle. I
Mhm.
want a work optional lifestyle. That
I
would
mean,
be so much fun.
I think that's the goal for, I know it's my goal, and I know it's the goal for many of my clients as well, but it's something where if you're doing what you truly enjoy doing, and it fills your your passion, if it gives you a reason to get up out of bed in the morning. That's the problem, is that retirement and what we understand today, it's still a relatively novel concept. If you go back 150 years, retirement, you know, death was retirement. There
Hmm.
was no exit strategy from working. So it is something that as a society we're still grappling with what that truly means. And for people that are truly successful, it's because they've put themselves into positions that, it fulfills their mission in life. It fuels and fills their bucket for giving them drive to continue to get up every day, continuing to progress forward.
Give us an example of that.
On a personal level, with a client of mine, I have a client that came into some substantial financial assets. But one of the things that we're planning for, and one of the things that we're intending to do, we're pivoting kind of what the goals are from a career perspective, but it's not to stop working. This person's going to have the financial resources where they never have to work another day in their life if they don't want to. But there's also a lot of studies done and a lot of research done that when you don't have something that is giving you a level of production every day, the quality of life starts to decline. The mental
Yeah, I would
aptitude
think that
starts.
you, yeah, I would think so. You would,
Yeah.
you'd be bored. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than the person that retires and doesn't have enough money to do anything and sits on his couch all day or her couch
Mhm.
all day. And then, they don't live very long because they're not active. They're not doing stuff. They're not happy.
But and even if you do have the financial resources to do things, if it's something that is simply for enjoyment and for pleasure, it takes the essence of what humans are put on this earth to do, which is to further themselves, further society, continue to get up every morning with a goal and a mission and a purpose. And it's something where, even if you go back over the course of history with people who have had generations upon generations of wealth that they've been able to pass forward.
Hmm.
There's a period of time in the pretty much 70s to mid 90s where, you had trust fund kids who were a stereotype for a reason. They never had a true purpose in life because they had constant access to financial resources to do what they want. But the stereotype was that they had a lifestyle that didn't accomplish anything. And oftentimes, a lot of them end up having shortened lifespans because they partook in negative behaviors, negative traits. They
Hmm.
got tied up in wrong things, or they squandered their financial resources pretty quickly. But it's because they didn't have a true purpose. So that's ultimately the key, regardless of where you are
So,
in your
yeah,
financial journey today.
yeah, even your purpose doesn't have to be, if you are, if you do have plenty of funds, I mean, your purpose could be volunteering. It's just
Yeah.
getting up and doing something.
Yeah. I know some other people too, not quite clients just yet, but they are close acquaintances of mine who their full time job is philanthropic ventures. Um, and that fulfills their need, it fulfills their buckets and makes them happy in life. And it's something where they're able to help others who aren't as fortunate as they are. And it
Hmm.
allows them to really excel at making sure that the community that they're a part of is growing in wealth. Maybe not necessarily financial wealth, but is improving and is bettering its well being as a community.
Yeah, that would be a fun life to have.
It is.
Yeah, I
I
would
think it's
enjoy
I
that.
think it's one that we all strive for.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something where, even for the one client that I have that is having, again, that work optional lifestyle, philanthropic ventures are going to be big, not necessarily for them, but for the next generation that's to follow. Because the goal is we're going to continue to build upon that wealth, both through compounding interest, through being able to have some additional savings now that a lot of the retirement goals and those planning goals are now off the table. But it's making sure that the next generation is in a position where they still have drive and ambition, and philanthropic goals are going to be a huge part of that.
How do you talk to your clients about educating themselves? Like, do you have resources that you recommend or books?
Hmm. And this is where when I'm meeting people, they're already out at sea that I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation. They're already adrift. So it's trying to find out where they are and meet them there and then start to put in waypoints along the way to guide them to where they need to be. What is your understanding of money? What did you grow up? Even with what you said, when you grow up in a family that even the feeling as a kid is that there's a constant shortage of cash, you can have a scarcity mindset when it comes to money. And anytime you get money, you just try to hoard it and hold on to it. So with someone like you, it's trying to meet you where you are and let you know it's okay to spend money sometimes. Money is only a tool to be utilized.
Right. I think even then, sometimes people go the opposite
Hmm.
direction too. Even if they have grew up like I did, then they get money and then they spend it
And that was going to
and they
be the
don't
next
save it.
that's the next point that I was going to make. I have clients who have very sizable incomes, but have been horrible at saving. And it's letting them know that, yes, you can have fun, you can enjoy life, but we don't need to be going 100 miles per hour on city streets. Let's slow down for a little bit. Let's think about some of the longer term goals that we have. And even though we don't necessarily need to check them all off today, if we just monitor our spending habits and where the money's going, we'll be surprised at how much we can save to get there. So it is an abundance mindset, and it's something that you want people to be able to embrace because
Hmm.
the money is a tool at the end of the day. But it's something that, do we start to collect some of that tool to amass a greater utility for us later versus spending it in the now? And it's balancing that. Not There's no two similar cases. Everyone is at a slightly different positioning in that. So it's something where it's really, for me, it's meeting my client where they are and trying to
Hmm.
direct them to where they need to be. Because not everyone, tying in another point that I mentioned with that work optional lifestyle, some people are grinding it out pretty hard right now in their career. They're working hard at something that they don't fully enjoy. So for them, they want to get off the ride. They want to get off the roller coaster.
Hmm.
So it's trying to come up with a way where, maybe we can. Maybe we work hard now, making the money, doing what we are good at doing, so that later on down the road, we can retire early. That might mean we change our saving strategy now. But if you're doing what you're doing and never going to retire, instead of saving 15% annually, maybe it's only 10% because we're never really stopping. But again, it's just directing from where they are now to where their ultimate goals are. It may not be the same shoreline. It may not necessarily be the same waypoint along the way, but just helping them get to where they want to be.
So, what was your biggest success story with one of your clients? Where were they weren't managing their money correctly? They didn't have any savings, and you helped turn them around.
Um, Again, I feel like with most of my clients, I feel like there's varying levels of success, and I get a lot of pride and joy out of each one of them. But to answer that, I think the greatest joy comes from those people that I mentioned earlier have that scarcity mindset, and letting them know that they're on the right path, letting them know that they're doing the right things, that maybe the consumer debt that they thought they were keeping because they couldn't tap into their savings to pay it off, that it's okay to ease that burden on themselves, and maybe they do have enough in an emergency fund when just get rid of that debt if that's what's really keeping them up at night. Maybe it's okay to plan that family vacation. Those are the successes that I truly get to enjoy, when I can get on the phone call or get in a meeting with a client and say, you know what, the hard work that we've been putting in, now we can start to check off some of those fun goals along the way. Those are really my most proudful moments.
Yeah, I agree. When I talk with people about money, it's those people that do have that scarcity mindset and they're so afraid to spend, and they don't build any memories because they don't ever want to do anything. And so when
Mhm.
you think about, and it doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be expensive, but just doing things and building memories. Nobody's going to remember if you left them 50 bucks or a $500,000, but what they will remember is all the fun things that you guys did together.
Exactly. And to that point as well, is that oftentimes if you are in a position where we've done all the right things, we've put in all the work, we've built the savings that we want to accomplish the goals in life, and that can be an early retirement as well as maybe, having wealth that you can pass on to the next generation. Once those systems are in place and once we've made good progress in those, living life with that next generation, with those inheritors of your assets, it's also going to pass on the meaning behind that money. What
Hmm.
you said, if you're just leaving a pile of cash or a pile of assets or a house or whatever it may be, that comes and goes pretty quickly. Again, it's not meant for you to hold on to forever. But if you instill the meaning behind how this money was acquired, the memories along the way as far as what the purpose of this money should be served, that's when you can truly have a lasting impact that extends well beyond yourself.
So, what would you tell a 20-year-old? Because I'm assuming most of your clients are probably quite a bit older. So, if you've got a 20-year-old graduating from high school or college, I guess, and they don't know anything, they get their first job, what would you tell them? What would be your advice?
That everything in life, financial planning being the one that I focus on, but everything in life is a marathon, not a sprint. And when you're just starting in your career, when you're just getting out of school, you're taking your first step out of the starting block. So it's best to realize that you don't need to go fast. You're not going to accomplish everything you want in life in year one. It's okay to put some of the plans that you have off 5 years, 10 years, and take that money that you would have spent on those things and save it. Because by the time you get 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 30 years down the road, as that money starts to compound and grow on itself, you'll be able to accomplish exponentially more by the time you get to that position in life.
So, what do you tell someone who's listening and they have young children? And I know you talk to your children already about money. They don't know how to broach that conversation. They don't know how to get started. Is there any recommendations that you have to how to start talking to your children?
If I feel like a lot of these conversations come about this, but it does depend. It does somewhat depend on your personal financial situation and where you are right now. Even if you're not fully comfortable, I think talking to someone in financial services, whether it's a full holistic financial planner, whether it's someone who does more one time financial planning, but getting an idea of where you currently are and saying, okay, this is what we need to do next, so that at least you feel more confident when you're having those conversations. Um, if you feel that you're not at the place in your life yet where you have the financial resources to even go down that path, just have philosophical conversations with the next generation. What's your purpose in life? What's your philosophy and outlook on life? What's something that you stand for that when you do get those financial resources to use as a tool, you would like to further build utility in?
But you talked about how you have your children have a balance sheet. So I'm assuming that's like they're building their own budget in
Mm-hmm.
some ways. Now, when you and your wife are talking about money and building your budget and talking about the things, I know they're only 3 and 6, but do you incorporate the kids in those conversations if they want, the new Xbox? I think Xbox is still out. If they want Xbox, do you have that conversation with, well, if we get you an Xbox, it has to come from somewhere. Do you talk with them about stuff like that?
We do. Again, if for them at their age, we try to still keep it a little bit more of the 30,000 foot view than necessarily get into the give and take on our end of that. But what we do is on vacation. It's something where if we're out and we have a vacation coming up, we might tell them that they can use some of their funds to buy an ice cream cone if we go out after dinner one night. but that means that they're going to have less money to spend on vacation. Or conversely, or simultaneously, what we also do is if we're planning on going somewhere, we might say, hey, if you save this amount of money and bring this amount of money on vacation, or even what we've done a few times is if you bring this amount of money back from vacation, we'll match it with 25%, 50%, dollar for dollar. But just as an incentive to understand how savings, and especially, with retirement in this country nowadays with an employer sponsored savings account where there's a match, the more that you can contribute and you get that match, the greater it's going to grow and the quicker it's going to accelerate in building. So we just try to have incentives like that along the way. Giving them the philosophies, it is something that we're eventually going to get to as they get older, is giving them the meaning behind it and the why, as I mentioned earlier, why decisions are made with money on our end the way they are, the purposes behind some of the purchases that we make, the goals of those purchases, not only for ourselves, but eventually for them as well. Those are to come. They're not quite at that age yet, but it is definitely something that, yeah, for people listening, for clients of mine, much like I'm meeting the adult at where they are in life, you have to kind of meet the kids are as well. It's one of those things where I've even tossed around to a couple of clients the idea of me eventually holding workshops based on different age groups to have them come in and get them all in one place and kind of have age dedicated sessions. And it's just getting the logistics behind that because I do take clients nationally. So it's just working out the logistics in that, but, getting groups of, 10 and under, 5 to 10 or 10 to 15, and then 15 into early adulthood together. And one thing that I've already talked to my wife about, and she's on board, is that as our kids get older, once they're in kind of that second age group, that 10 to 15, they would even start teaching the younger age group. Because I personally feel that when the message comes from someone who's a little bit closer to your age, it resonates a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to go back to, I have this pressing question for you. So did they get the ice cream cone or not?
So we were on
Because
vacation
I would have to get
last
the
week.
ice cream cone.
We were on vacation last week, and the agreement that they made, and I was actually shocked when again, they're 3 and 6, but they actually were talking to one another. One of them picked up ice cream for the family one night, and the other picked up ice cream for the family the other night. So they split the costs on various nights. But it's something where, again, they had the understanding. They utilized it as a tool. They knew that if they combined their resources together in that capacity, they could get 2 nights of ice cream rather than just trying to worry about it for themselves. So it's giving them the opportunity to embrace that abundance mindset where, hey, if we work together on this, we can accomplish a lot more.
So where do they get their money from?
Just performing various little chores around the house, whether it's helping to clean up the dinner table or grab sticks in the backyard, or I'm a pretty big lawn care nut, so pulling weeds and kind of getting them out of the ground. We'll give them quotas to hit for that, for small little pocket change along the way with that. Nothing too crazy just yet, but as they get older, I already have in my head kind of a task list that's going to have different denominations along it for each week. But, again, it's evolving with them and it's not staying stagnant in one place.
So Dad will be sitting on the patio with a cocktail as his kids are running around cutting the grass and pulling the weeds and washing the car.
Not quite to that extent. It's definitely going to be divide and conquer. But it's one of those things, and a lot of it is even with my clients too. And again, it does vary slightly from person to person, but I do take my own medicine as well. And it's something that even with the kids growing up, it's something where I'm not going to ask them to do anything that I wouldn't roll up my sleeves and do myself.
Or pay them to do it for you.
Yeah.
That's the better option. That's what we have kids for, isn't it?
Yeah.
To do all the things we can do ourselves, but we just have them do it instead. Okay.
I'm definitely they're at the age right now where they actually look at chores as being fun. So I'm trying to let them live in that era of life for a while and just.
Yeah. You remember what it's like to be a teenager. Chores are not fun.
Yep. And not necessarily have to come to the financial bribery aspect as early and heavily as they may eventually get to.
Yeah. I raised 5 kids, so I completely understand.
Yep.
Bribing, begging, anything you can do. Just please clean your room. Please, please,
Right now they're
please.
still in the competitive stage to see who can bring more dishes to the sink. So
Oh,
and the
nice.
financial reward is just icing on the cake for them. They don't necessarily even anticipate or want that yet, but I'm letting them try to stay there as long as possible.
Okay, so I gotta ask, how much do they get for bringing the dishes to the sink? $1?
On a
$5?
normal night, $1. Yeah,
$1?
yeah. You know, something
Okay.
that's a little bit more menial if it's something where, if we were on the patio out back and using paper plates, it's something where it might only be 50 cents. It's something we want them to feel like there's a level of accomplishment there, but not necessarily something where it's only hinging on the financial reward.
So I had my grandsons over the weekend, and I live on a lake, and um, they're like, "It's cold, Grandma. I'm not going in because we have unusually cold weather right here." And I'm like, "I'll give you guys $1 to go in the water." And I said, however long it takes you to get in there, every time I count down, you're going to lose a quarter. They looked at me and they're like, only for $5.
Yeah,
I'm
those
like,
type of negotiation and reward tactics I leave to grandma and grandpa right now.
I'm like, $5 to get in the water.
Hmm.
But you know
Hmm.
what? I didn't give them the money. I forgot. They got in the water and started having fun. They forgot all about the money.
And but see that to me is where that balance sheet that they have comes in handy because it's something where, okay, what did you do? How much should be in here?
Do you
Where
have it
did the
in a
money
piggy
go?
bank or a bank account?
Right now, again, I try to keep it cash right now, just so that they actually feel the transactional experience with everything. When they get older, we'll start introducing a bank account that has a debit card attached to it. But right now, everything's just a piggy bank that they keep in their room, and once a month we'll take it out and say, okay, this is how much money your balance sheet says you should have in there. We have this much. What's the variance for? How did we get there? If it's surplus, do you want to add it back in and just rebalance it? Do we want to spend it on something that we've been putting off? If it's under, hey, now we have a problem. Where'd the money go? And then it's kind of doing the forensic analysis on that with them. Again, I'm speaking a little
I
bit
like
more
that.
technical than I do with them, but it's something where just so that they understand the movement of money, and if grandma and grandpa promises them some cash, um, it's holding them accountable to hold up their end of the bargain as well.
Oh, so you're going to go call my grandkids and say, Grandma forgot to give you your money. You better get on
I'll
her.
ask you for the number later.
No, I'm not giving it to you. There's no way. Okay. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
Best way to get in touch with me, if you can send me an email directly to andrew.vanalston@ffadvisor.com. Uh, for fiduciary.com/meet Andrew Van Alstyne. And if you do a Google search on Andrew Van Alstyne, I take up about a page and a half of results, so it's usually not too hard to find me.
Oh, nice, nice. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Andrew.
Pleasure talking to you as well, Paula.
I am actually going to incorporate what you do with your children with my grandchildren.
It,
I
it,
think
it's
that's a cool idea.
it's a great starting point. Again, it's just the basics, and then you can kind of really take it from there as far as where you want to go and build upon it, and you can really take it in a bunch of different directions, and just meet them with where their understanding is.
Okay. We should probably get going because my producer will say you went overtime.
Sounds good.
It was really a pleasure talking with you. Thank you again. If anybody would like to get a hold of me, you can reach me at paula@paulachristine.com. Thanks and have a great day.